What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Kids Talk Sports podcast. And on today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the two upcoming NFL playoff games. I'm going to be giving you guys my predictions and intake on those games. And then I'm going to be giving you guys my final college football top 10 rankings after the season has ended. I'll be ranking teams 1 through 10 to tell you guys who I think were the top 10 teams at when the season was all said and done. And then I have a question of the week and 3 shoutouts to give at the end of the episode. So let's get into it. So the first thing let's talk about is the NFL playoffs. The Commanders are coming off a win against the Lions in a pretty big upset, and the Eagles are coming off a really solid win against the Rams against a team who was hot red. So I think this game is going to be a really good game. Even though the game is being played in snow, I think this is going to be a battle of two offenses. Both these teams' defenses are sneaky good. The Eagles, they have a really good defensive line and a really good secondary. The Commanders are just a lot of guys that are underrated, but they're really solid. They forced 5 turnovers against the Lions, 3 interceptions, and 4 interceptions and a fumble. So I think if this Commanders defense can play well, I think their offense is going to back them up, and the Commanders can come out on top with a dub. So I've got the Commanders winning 35-31 in a high-scoring battle. But I think an interesting thing to see in this game is the Eagles. They're the 2 seeds, so they're gonna have home field advantage for this game too. But they've had home advantage for the game against the Packers and the game against the Rams, in which both games had some snow. But on the other hand, the Commanders have played in not so cold weather, with the playing against the Buccaneers and the indoor at Ford Field against the Lions. So they haven't played in snow or like really, really cold weather. So I think it'll be tough to see how they adapt. If they can adapt to the cold weather in Philadelphia, I think they can come out on top. But if they can't, I think the Eagles have an advantage here, especially just being at home. Philly's a really tough place to play in any sport in the MLB, NBA. They're just a tough place to play. So if the Commanders can adjust to that change, I think they come out on top, and Jaden Daniels keeps his poise and leads his Commanders team to a Super Bowl. And then for the second matchup in the NFL, we've got the Buffalo Bills versus Kansas City Chiefs. This is in Kansas City, and I think you guys all know who I'm going with. I'm going with the Chiefs to win 27-19. The Chiefs, they are impossible. They're like the Patriots when the Patriots had Tom Brady and Julian Edelman and Rob Gronkowski. The Chiefs are impossible to beat in the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes turns into the LeBron James of the NBA in the playoffs. Like, you can't stop him. I think Josh Allen has done everything he can to lock up this MVP, but he can have the best game of his life, and the Chiefs are still going to win. They just find a way to win. Patrick Mahomes doesn't make mistakes. Travis Kelce makes big plays. They have a good run game, and their defense steps up when they need him. So I got the Chiefs winning this 27-19 in a pretty close game. So I've got the Commanders beating the Eagles 35-31, and the Chiefs beating the Bills 27-19, and that makes it a Commanders-Chiefs Super Bowl. And for my Super Bowl prediction, I've got the Chiefs defeating the Commanders 31-27. Like I said, the Chiefs are impossible to beat in the playoffs. You could put a Pro Bowl team against them, and I think they'd still win. They're just impossible to beat in the playoffs. So I got the Chiefs defeating the Commanders 31-27, ending Jaden Daniels' historic run. But I think if somehow Jaden Daniels can lead this Commanders team to Super Bowl, he would go down as a hero in Washington. He'd be known as a legend in his rookie year. It'd be awesome to see if he could do that. So again, I've got the Commanders over the Eagles 35-31, the Chiefs over the Bills 27-19, and then the Chiefs over the Commanders in the Super Bowl 31-27. So that wraps up the NFL section of this, and then to move on to the college football section, I've got my top 10 teams in the nation after the college football playoffs were all said and done. So we're gonna go from 10 to 1. So at number 10, I've got Ole Miss. They were left out of the playoffs. They had good wins against Georgia, but they had bad losses against Kentucky. And I think that Georgia win showed what they can really do. That they also had a loss to Florida in the last game of the year. But Jackson Dart, I think this Ole Miss team was good. I just think they didn't play to their highest potential. So I've got them at number 10, ahead of teams like Indiana and SMU that were in the playoffs that should not have been. Number 9, I've got Boise State. They got a first-round bye, but then they got basically first-rounded in the quarterfinals. But they had an awesome season. Ashton Genty should have won the Heisman. And they didn't really play bad in the game against Penn State. It's just Penn State had way too much better athletes. Boise State just couldn't compare. Number 8, I've got Tennessee. They got blown out by the national champion, Ohio State, in the first round. Tennessee, I think they had a good season, but I think a lot of their team was young, so I think they have really high potential going into their second season next year. Number 7, I've got Arizona State. They lost in the quarterfinals to Texas in a double overtime nail-biter. Sam Leavitt, their rookie quarterback, I think is going to be great the rest of his college career. Cam Scatterby, their running back, was one of the best in the country. Unfortunately, he is a senior, so he's going to leave. And then Jordan Tyson looked really good, even though he was hurt at the end of the season. Their wide receiver, their number 1 wide receiver. So I think this Arizona State team has a lot to build on going into next season. And shout out to Kenny Dillingham for bringing this team from projected to finish at the bottom of the Big 12 to winning the Big 12 and going to the college football playoffs. Number 6, I've got Penn State. They lost in the semifinals in the Orange Bowl to a pretty solid Notre Dame team. Drew Aller, Nick Singleton, and Katron Allen are all returning. Nick Singleton and Katron Allen are their star 2 running backs who might be next season might be the best running back duo in the country since Travion Henderson and Quinshawn Judkins will no longer be at Ohio State. Drew Aller is a really, really good quarterback. I think as he keeps going longer into his college career, he's kind of adapted more of that run game to his game, but he also has that throwing ability too. So I think he's going to be a really good quarterback one day. And they also just have a really, really solid defense, but they did lose Abdul Carter, their number 1 edge rusher, who's going to be, I think, a top 15 pick in the draft this year. So I've got Penn State, number 6. Number 5, I got Georgia. Their starting quarterback was out for the playoffs. Gunnar Stockton, though, their backup, looks like he's the future of Georgia. He did look pretty good. Carson Beck, their starting quarterback, did transfer to Miami. Georgia, I just think they need to get a couple wide receivers, and they're going to be set. Their defense is always good, so I think this Georgia team has a lot to build on going next year. Number 4, I've got Oregon, who was ranked number 1. They were the number 1 seed, 13-0 going into this playoff. They got blown out by Ohio State in the quarterfinals by 20. But they had a really good season. They had Dylan Gabriel, quarterback that transferred from Oklahoma. He had a really, really good season. They had good receivers with Tez Johnson and Trayshawn Holden. I just think this Oregon team, they didn't play to their full potential. They didn't come to play against Ohio State. If they would have beat Ohio State, they would have won the Natty. So I got Oregon number 4. Number 3, I've got Texas. I think Texas' future is the brightest out of any team on this list with Arch Manning. Quinn Ewers, though, he's a solid quarterback, but they had a really good season. Gunnar Helm, their tight end, had a really good season. Jaden Blue, the running back, also had a great season. So I think this Texas team has the brightest future on this list. They have a lot to build on, and they have their team set with Arch Manning next year. Number 2, I've got Notre Dame, who lost in the national championship. Riley Leonard had a really, really good season for them. Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price also had a really good season. They're 2 running backs. I think this Notre Dame team, if they would have made that field goal with about 4 minutes left, I think they almost could have got this thing done and maybe made a comeback. But they did look really good, so shout out to Notre Dame. And then for who I have at number 1, the national champions, Ohio State. This was the most stacked team I've ever seen. They had Will Howard, a quarterback that looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the country. They had the best running back duo in the country with Travion Henderson and Quinshawn Judkins to go along with a crazy wide receiver core with the second best freshman wide receiver in the country. That's right. I think Ryan Williams is better than him. But they got Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate. They got some dogs on defense like Cody Simon, Jack Sawyer, Caleb Downs. And this team was just insanely stacked. The Notre Dame athletes could not compete with them. So again, my list: number 10, Ole Miss; number 9, Boise State; number 8, Tennessee; number 7, Arizona State; number 6, Penn State; number 5, Georgia; number 4, Oregon; number 3, Texas; number 2, Notre Dame; and number 1, Ohio State. So to end off this episode, I have a question of the week for you guys. So for this week's question of the week, it is: what is your end of season college football top 5 teams? So again, I just listed my top 10. This week's question of the week is: what is your end of season college football top 5 teams? And then I've got some shout out to give. So the first shout out goes to Theo, who said he thinks the Bills will beat the Chiefs 35-31, and the Commanders will have an upset against the Eagles. winning 21-17. Shout out to Theo. Next shout out goes to Ezra. Thinks it'll be an Eagles win over the Commanders and a Chiefs win over the Bills to have a rematch between the Eagles and the Chiefs. So shout out to Ezra. And the last shout out goes to Jack, who said he has the Eagles over the Commanders and the Bills over the Chiefs. So as always, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you next time. Peace.